Hi, everybody. My name is Sonya Lopez, and I am a professor in civil engineering at Cal State LA. I'm going to go ahead and jump into the heart of the poster. So the motivation for this work is kind of me and my upbringing. So I came from a low socioeconomic status, first gen, female in STEM. My school was terrible. My area was pretty bad, youngest of four, only female, and we all kind of suffer from high anxiety. Now, when I was in school, I really didn't realize that a lot of the things around me were part of my strength and they were part of my support system. So in these images are kind of some examples that I draw on, like that I think of when I was in school that gave me strength. So I know this seems silly, but my family was so supportive in giving me all the little things that I needed, even though they couldn't pay for my school. My mom was so sweet in packaging food for me so that I could study and focus on my exams. I gave back to the community quite a bit through these chapters. And I also had a really amazing friendship social network that kept me strong. When I'm asked, what inspired me to pursue STEM, and I really cannot draw on a single person. Um, no one really encouraged me. None of my friends were really in STEM. And, even though I did really well in my AP courses, none of my teachers identified me as strong. So there wasn't that conversation of like, oh, maybe you should try engineering. I had a very untraditional educational path where I went into UCLA undeclared and I kind of, whisked through different pathways into civil engineering. And I tell students the story to make them feel comfortable that, there isn't necessarily a direct path. And then when I finally got into civil engineering, my advisor asked me, okay, now you're in the major. What is it you'd like to specialize in? And I completely broke down. I was so overwhelmed because it took me a year and a half to figure out I wanted to do civil engineering. And then when I finally figured that, somebody asked me, okay, well, what's your next big life decision? And I just felt a huge weight on top of me because I never really felt that I was supported or that I belonged in this major. And then now I'm being asked it was just too much. Anyways, the motivation behind the project was really that it takes one person, to show initiative for a student to feel that they belong. And a lot of the times when I was a student, people say, "Oh, just come to my office. Just come to my office. We'll have chat." And instead of that, go to them, say, "Hey, let's schedule tea. Let's schedule an outside lunch. Like, let's talk about your career and talk about things that I've done." It doesn't take much effort. And that's kind of the motivation behind this project. So I'm going to dive into the goals. And so the goal is really to deviate from this, deficit thinking and have the students recognize the immense amount of wealth that they bring when they're going through their engineering curriculum. So they bring culture, social network, family, and they also have the engineering faculty to lean on. The research questions I have are, if I develop a more inclusive syllabus and I conduct regular check-ins, will they feel supported and understood? And the second question is, can students recognize how their cultural wealth positively assisted them along their academic journey towards their engineering degree? And so the plan is basically to incorporate more thoughtful statements than just the traditional university issued statements. I put a lot of personal information in this just to kind of relate myself to them. The second stage is conducting regular mental health check-ins. And so I incorporate a few surveys, not too much, just so it's not overwhelming. But the first survey is, tell me about your stressors, like what is going on externally from school. If they want to share, sometimes students say nothing, and that's fine. But as I get to know them, I learn more and more about them. The second is, I do regular mental health check-ins, and I'll go into more detail later about some of the questions that we discuss or some of the topics we discuss. I also have I discussed stress relieving strategies before exams, and this is, we all kind of share this together. And so, what strategies that they take, and then I have stress-free assignment extension requests, and this is just on top of the university, mandated, extensions or accommodations for illness or jury duty or whatever. This is in addition to that. And then I actually have 2 student surveys in the beginning of the class and at the end of the class. And this is where I'm gauging their perceived support and belongingness. Stage 3 is actually addressing the cultural wealth model. And so the students are asked to generate a 2 to 5 minute video where they pick any of these topics. I'll go ahead and let you pause to review the questions, but these are topics that will help them identify their support, their support, their network of friends and family, and how they themselves are navigating through the curriculum. And these are all strengths that they have. How it's going. So just again, this is the learning section, right? So we're learning about everything. I've actually executed stage 3, which is the cultural wealth model. I did that last semester, but this semester, this is when I started stage 1 and 2, which is the inclusive syllabus and the check-ins. And so these are some examples of the check-ins that I did. Some of them are really relevant and some of them are, specifically before exams. But the key here is that I'm the one actually sharing what I feel and what I've done, because by sharing first, you make students feel comfortable in the environment. And I want to say for these check-ins, don't address or don't comment or have students comment on what someone else says. So if somebody says, I'm feeling sad because of the conflict of the Ukraine conflict, for instance, and somebody says, why are you sad? We're not. That's not the point of the check-in. The check-in is just to say whatever you want to say. And then you say, thank you for your contribution. Thank you for being honest. And we go on to the next student. It's the point. The point is to make everybody heard and to make everybody feel comfortable, not prove that someone's right or wrong and start a debate. That's not the point of the check-in. What I have here is the sense of belonging survey. So this is the early survey. It is anonymous to gauge how they're feeling early in the semester. And so how this becomes anonymous and I'm able to track responses is I allow the students to create kind of like a signature where they, choose the first letter of their favorite animal, their third letter of their name, and the last letter number of their CIN or something like that. So whatever, or ID, like whatever it is. And then they have access to the early survey to keep that signature. So it's their signature. It's completely anonymous. I don't know who's filling it out. There are 17 questions. I'm only showing 4. And again, I really just want to address that, the neutrality and the students that disagree. I want to see if I'm able to capture them and make them feel like they belong as we move through the class. These are some results from stage 3. So this is in a completely different class. I forgot to mention that is I included stage 1 and 2 in fluid mechanics, which is a junior level large lecture class, and it's required and cross-listed with ME. I am going to also do stage 3 in this class. I just haven't done it yet. And this class is water resources engineering, again, a junior level, but this one's actually not 30, it's 20. This lecture was a 20-person class that is required for CE. And this was kind of like my pilot in including these cultural wealth model questions. And I don't want to share too much about what they'd said. I just wanted to provide examples of comments that I sent to the students, because I think it's really important to respond and say, this was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. You come in, like this person in particular said that, he didn't even speak Spanish, 5 years ago. And you can't tell because his work is flawless. And I just wanted him to know that. And so I think that, providing this feedback is so encouraging and important to students. I'm really excited to see how the feeling of being supported changes for the fluid mechanics class. And so we'll see how it goes. If anybody watching online is interested in emailing me, my email is at the top of the poster. Thank you so much for listening.